Hello, Cindy here with Create Your Own Luck and Love. Welcome. I'm super excited to talk about this topic, the 3 signs you're dating a toxic guy. So first of all, I know many of you are dating or you're in a relationship. So this applies to you either way, whether you're in the early dating stages or um, in a relationship that is longer term. So, you may have experienced, quick story for you. You might have experienced something along the lines of where, you meet someone, things feel amazing, you have a really great connection, and then next thing you know, and this actually happened to a client of mine, and I'll just share this quick story with you where in the beginning he courted her, he was really showing up for her, he would bring her flowers all the time. She felt really loved, seen, and cared for. And what started unfolding as they became closer was some real toxic patterns, where he was she would share something with him, and he would actually act like he was almost, I don't want to say act like he wasn't listening, but ignore her and continue on to another topic. Or he would actually so he would continue on to a topic that was about him. And he also started, he was really frustrated in his life and in his work. And what she started experiencing was a feeling of, really trying to sense his moods, or, walking around on eggshells. And there were some other things that unfolded within the relationship as she got to know him better. I call it, peeling back those onion layers. And, inevitably the relationship ended, and it didn't take very long for it to end because we were really working together around this. And, you can be someone that's, in your process, or, have, working with a coach, or in the, in your personal development, and attract a toxic relationship. And part of that too can be, well, there's a couple reasons for it, but part of it, why it's showing up in your sphere, and I call it kind of a circular sphere, is because there's something there that's actually meant to be healed. Now, the toxic individual isn't necessarily all toxic, all bad. I believe everyone possesses really good traits about them. So the other side of this is, is to understand that, and also know that unless someone is committed to shifting their way of being, that it's not going to change within them. So unless this person is committed to, when you have a conversation about something that you're experiencing with them, and they don't see it. So let me give you an example. I'm going to talk to you about 3 signs that you're dating a toxic guy. So let's just say, for example, you experience something with them, meaning that, maybe you felt disregarded, or you felt like he wasn't listening to you. And this had happened a few times, and you wanted to discuss it in an adult manner. And you're using your communication skills, right? So your communication skills of, hey, sweetie, something that I'm experiencing is, I notice when I start to share something that has gone on in my day, or something that I would love to just feel some comfort around. I feel like you don't hear me, or the subject gets changed, or whatever you're experiencing, right? Or I feel like um, sometimes there's you maybe you shut down and get defensive, and I don't necessarily feel heard. So a toxic individual, when you go to problem solving mode, they're not committed to solving problems. They're actually more committed to their truth. They're more committed to staying stuck, so to speak. So they're more committed to being right. I call it, committed to being right rather than being happy. So it feels like a battle. It feels like you're walking on eggshells when you're sharing something. You don't necessarily feel comfortable to be vulnerable and share. And I know maybe what might be coming up for you right now is, gosh, Cindy, it's really hard for me to be vulnerable in the first place, which is completely understandable, especially if this area of your life has been a challenge, or you've experienced relationships where you weren't seen or heard, or you felt like you had to do more of the work. So the number one sign to look for is, one, he's committed to being right and not seeking to understand. So people that are, committed to an emotionally mature relationship, something that is, heart connected and healthy, will, take the space to open up about what is happening. And men process information much differently. So if you feel like you're beating your head up against the wall, you're having the same conversation, and you don't feel like you feel like maybe he's shutting down, or he fights with you, or nothing really gets resolved or changes, that's a sign that there's toxicity in the relationship. So the second sign is, and I already alluded to it, is, somebody that is kind of angry and is ruled by their moods. So, the flip side of that is, look, we all have bad days. We all have things that happen. It's, who are, when you're around, whether it be your partner or other people, who are you being, right? And are you consistently somebody that's ruled by your moods, and that people need to tiptoe around you? And is that person that you're with ruled by his moods, and you feel like, oh, he's in this place, and you start to see patterns of, when it's going to pass, or, how to approach something with them, and, when the right time might be. So if that happens, and oftentimes somebody that's ruled by their moods doesn't necessarily recognize it, and they're more committed to actually, they will, oftentimes not take responsibility when they're called on it. They might be a little more, they might turn, I'm trying to explain it. They might turn the situation back upon you. Like, well, I mean, you're in a bad mood, or you did this, or this, I remember when you did this, and that, and I didn't say anything. Or so a sign of a toxic person is someone that doesn't necessarily own up to their side of the street and take responsibility for their actions. They might project upon you. And, people that tend to project a lot, tend to project their insecurities, their emotions, around, and you might even think that it comes out of left field. So somebody that is more committed to being toxic will oftentimes, project something negative upon you to actually tear down your self-esteem and put you in a place where you're not feeling as good about yourself. You're not as happy in your life. And remember this too. You are the sum of all of the people that you spend the most time with. So think about that. You are, if you have 5 people that you spend a lot of time with, who are they being? How are they showing up? And do they inspire you, and do you inspire them? So this goes into all of your relationships. Or are they committed to, being a slave to their moods, gossip? And gossip could be, complaining about their relationships, not necessarily looking at what they can do to, show up differently. Something that and sometimes we can be a part of the I can't even say the word, toxicity. Oftentimes we are, because there's a payoff in that. It could be a payoff of, when the drama gets higher, or the drama gets higher, you're getting attention, and then there's this need that gets filled. It's like a monster that gets fed. And then with that, it's with that roller coaster of emotion that transpires, then you feel closer to that person after the roller coaster. So there might be a fight, one of you blows up, and then the other person blows up, and then there's this fighting going back and forth, and then there's this flow of coming back together and reuniting. It's like lovers quarrel, and then there's passion afterwards. Not that you can't have that. It's the looking at the patterns of your relationships. And I believe that if you have a pattern of toxicity in a lot of your relationships, many of them, and look at them, are they uplifting? Do you feel support and love from them? Or is there almost this feeling of being squelched, kind of squeezing your sunshine out of you? And remember, if that is the case, if that's something that you notice on a consistent basis, I would love to hear from you. If do you have people in your life that you just plain feel really great around? That whenever you're around them, it's light, it feels fun. Even if there's, an uncomfortable moment, you can shift through it, and it's always it's a great experience. You feel open, you feel like you can fully express who you are. Write yes in the comments. I would just love to hear from you if you've experienced that. And then the opposite, right? Where you're feeling confined. And a lot of times what happens with women, and men get caught up in this trap too, is that they they feel like if I can't make this work, then it's going to be so hard to meet somebody else. Well, with that mindset, yes, it will be really hard to meet someone else. It will be really hard. However, and being in a toxic relationship can actually brainwash you into thinking that there's nothing else out there. You're not going to be, happier, better off. And there's actually compartments in your brain that take a certain amount of toxicity, and I can tell you toxicity to a really unhealthy level, like abusive. So for example, let me give you an example of that. Maybe there's a woman in a relationship where she's getting emotionally and verbally abused, where he's, manipulating her, making her feel, saying things to make her feel bad. Like, for example, trying to control what she wears, telling her she looks bad or whatever it is. Nothing's ever enough, right? And then next thing you know, he becomes physical and he hits her. And she still stays. And she stays and stays. And then they have a child and they bring a child into it. And the next thing you know, he lays a hand on the child and something clicks in her brain and she leaves. So there are different compartments in our brain that can actually take so much, and then you remove yourself from the situation. I'd be curious to know if you've ever been in a place where you actually knew you were in a toxic relationship and there was this, fear. It could have been laziness. It could have also been just this fear that, you had so much guilt and shame that you weren't really going to be loved and accepted for you. And you stayed in that relationship until a certain point where you just knew, I gotta go. It was just, it was that quick. It was that sort of like, yep, this is done. I have to go. That's a different compartment in your brain. Our brains actually have these different compartment levels of what they can take toxicity wise. The third sign, and I'm going to close with this, that you're in a toxic relationship, and this is a really big one, is that you don't, this kind of goes in with the other ones I was saying, but this person is there for you when you are at your worst, not when you're at your best. So let me explain. You could, let's just say you got a promotion, things are going really amazing. And then, and this person is, has a subtle amount of criticism, doesn't necessarily celebrate with you, doesn't see your wins, and a toxic person, they don't want to see your wins, they don't want to build you up because they feel so bad about themselves, right? You can understand that logically, but the next step is to that, when you're on your knees, and let's just say your position at your company got cut and you were laid off, and all of a sudden your dream job was, the rug was pulled out from underneath you. You feel, hopeless and almost desperate. A toxic person becomes a hero in that situation. They actually like to show up for you in those situations. And that's the time where you will find more sympathy, more compassion, because that's where they can actually feel good through your pain. It's sick, I know. It's just, that is the way they operate. And again, there are different levels of toxicity. I can go into, is this person judgmental? Do they, talk badly about other people? Are they sarcastic a lot in their humor? And the sarcastic humor is demeaning to other people. That's a real sign of toxicity. They gaslight. And gaslighting is, again, that ignoring and turning the tables on you to, in fact, make you feel like you're crazy. So this is a hot topic. And, a lot of times I think early on, this is why I highly recommend moving slower in the beginning to move faster later on. It supports you in actually seeing who this person is, as they remove their masks, as they, show the person that they truly are or committed to being. So, our bodies don't lie. And if you don't feel like you can fully be expressed in a relationship or with someone you're dating or getting to know, that's a sign that it could be a huge stop sign for you. That could be a really big red flag. Now, if it's hard for you to just feel comfort level with anyone, that's something else. Then, that's a learning of becoming really comfortable and safe with you, so you can start to feel safe with other people and not let it penetrate. But the one thing I want to share this in closing, you guys, is, and this is so important, I want you to remember, you are the sum of the 5 closest people, closest friends in your life, even if you don't talk to them all the time. I have a few of my dearest friends that we don't necessarily talk all the time, but, I listen to their podcast, they listen to mine, we're mutually loving and supportive, and we're in each other's sphere and energy, and we're always building one another up. So I'm using friendships, for example, because that's a really important one. And, are you committed to, what are you committed to having in your life and creating? I always say this too, I feel called to say this right now, is that, when you're in the dating stages or even in relationship, and maybe you're having, some issues, some things that have come up, which is natural, and you start sharing that with what I call the committee, one that is toxic, because you don't want to share, what is happening between you and another human being that is a precious child of God, and they can't be there to defend their position. So your opinion's going to be skewed. And of course, the committee sides with you because you're their friend. And, oftentimes we do that to make ourselves feel better, an attempt to vent. And, a way to express yourself with a trusted friend that's actually also going to call you on your stuff is just to say, gosh, I'm really feeling a little frustration right now. Do you mind if I vent? And, without getting into too much detail, venting with a trusted person or having a coach, having really someone on your team to help you with those triggers to get to the other side, because the more you grow and focus on yourself, you can actually remove most toxicity, I can't even say the word, from your life. How amazing would that be? I hope this helps. Please do me a favor. If you're on YouTube, like us, subscribe to our channel. I have almost daily lives. I'm addicted to supporting you guys. Also, If you know a woman that feels like that you feel could really use this information today, then please share it. It would, it supports me to know that other people are, hearing this and maybe hear something that they need to hear today to shift their perspective or shift their love life. Sending you lots of love. Have an amazing rest of your day, and we'll see you soon. Bye.